What's going on, guys? This is going to be a quick tutorial about designing Order of the Arrow lodge flaps. Pretty much just going to cover the basic things you want to have on your lodge flap if you're going to send it to National to get approved, to get produced, and turn it from a sketch or a piece of art into felt. So the first thing you want to consider is going to be size. As you can see, I've got my Photoshop open right now, but these will be the same kind of rules you'll want to apply whether you're in Photoshop, MS Paint, or just hand sketching it. And the reason you want to consider size is because National requires that lodge flaps that are going to be worn on the uniform, that is a notable exception there, need to be 5x2 to match the size of the current uniform pockets. That does change because it used to be 5x2.5. They had a little bit wider of a pocket on an old design. So as you can see here, I've got it set to 5x2. Now, what's more important than the actual size is the ratio of 5x2. So I could actually turn this and work in a 10x4 design. So long as the ratio is the same, they can cut it down just as easily. But what I don't want to do is start working on a design that, say, is like this, where I've got this massive workspace that's going to end up having to be cut down. It has a tendency to make your art look a little funky. So we'll go ahead and stick this back in the center and start covering the things you're going to want to consider and have on your design. And starting with the main one, it's going to be your lodge name. This is usually the biggest word on the patch, and it's going to eat up the most space. So a lot of times you'll see it up at the top here, running across like this. Usually centered. I've seen some that are right justified. And it's a lodge flap. It's identifying you as a member of this lodge. So of course the lodge name is going to be one of the biggest things on it. I have seen some people, especially if they're doing more of like a specialty thing, they'll sometimes take it and stick it down here like this. Sometimes they'll split it between the left and the right. Sometimes they'll have it center. Atakula does something where they've got it kind of running across like this. You could take it, you could stick it on like a sash if you're doing a cross. But yeah, typically I like to just, when I'm designing, start off with it up at the top and have it be the biggest word on the patch. I'll go ahead and recenter that and drop it down so it's not touching the border. Because if you design something touching the border on your art, chances are it'll be touching the border on the actual patch. So you want to leave a decent bit of space between the top there. But yeah, you want to remember you're going to have that on there, because say you design something really cool like a frog something, and most of that face design is up there, and then the lodge name gets put over top of it, it's not going to look as cool. So it's worth considering where you're going to put the lodge name while working on it, along with all the other text features. The next thing is going to be the lodge number. So I'll type out 104. That's my lodge, Go Okanichi. And typically, so you'll sometimes see the lodge number put at the end of the lodge name. I like to run it kind of off to one of the sides here. They make off the sides of both the left and the right of center make great places to put text. You can sometimes run it down here at the bottom like this. There are a lot of cool places you can put your lodge number. Oftentimes the text is a little bit smaller. You can turn it so it's running along the side. Usually what you want to do is type out each character and move them separately if you're doing that. Or if you are in Photoshop, there is actually a function where you can type vertically instead of horizontally. But we'll leave that right there for now. The next thing that's going to be required is the WWW. This is required on all Okanichi patch, or not Okanichi patches, all lodge flaps for the Order of the Arrow, or lodge patches for the Order of the Arrow. So you can require this even on round or odd shapes. You can get a lot of different shapes and patches, although they are most strict about the lodge flaps. So typically, you've got it. I will run mine right about here. Sometimes I'll have it where the 104 is, sometimes at the bottom. Again, you can run these straight line. You can put one on top and make a pyramid. You can do some cool things with them. And in terms of text size, if you are in a text editor, Typically, you don't want to go down below, especially if you're set like I am at that 5:2. I think about 12 to 14 is the smallest text size you want to consider, because these letters will start blurring together at some point. And your big thing is you want it to be legible. So go ahead and up that size and accidentally erase it, so we'll retype it. Yep, we'll put that right there. The last thing that's going to be required on your design is going to be the fleur-de-lis. I like to put mine right at the bottom. Again, it can go anywhere on the patch. The one big thing you want to consider, though, is you can't have anything above the fleur-de-lis. It's got to be standalone. So I can't take this 104 and run it over top of it, and despite how cool it looks. I've wanted to do that in several designs. I've been shot down a couple of times. So those are all the required things in the patch. Of course, you're usually going to have a few other things in there, like if it's an event patch, NOAC or Conclave, you're going to have that, and typically though it will be smaller. That's usually, I like to run those around the bottom like this with the and I'll either put the year on the other side or some other text. If it's a long event name like Spring Inductions, I'll split it between the left and right, although we don't usually make lodge flaps for Spring Inductions. And then the last thing that will probably need to be on your design, though isn't always required, would be the lodge totem. So for that, we're going to represent it with this moose shape right here for this one. And with a lodge totem, you're not always going to have access to the art file. If you're just getting started designing and haven't really worked with your lodge's patch committee, if they have one, or whoever just is responsible for making the patches, you may not have access to a file with that in there. So a lot of times when you're just getting started, it's best to design your own, hand sketch it, draw it. But some of the cool in Okenichi, some of our coolest designs have actually come out where people have redesigned our logo. They take the main elements, and we got like an angry Thunderbird face, which has become pretty common on a lot of our things now. But yeah, I've got some cartoony ones. Bring your own style to it. But if you're dead set on getting the actual lodge logo, a couple of tricks I've found, especially starting out. One, you can just go ahead and ask whoever is responsible for designing most of your patches, or whoever orders them, if they have access to it and will be willing to share it to you. Most of the time they are. They're also great resources for information on designing patches. So these videos are good starting places, but definitely ask around your lodge, talk to other people. It's definitely a community around patches. You got the designers, the collectors, people like wearing them on their uniform. Patches are cool. But yeah, if you can't get a hold of a file image for it, then you can always. One thing I've seen done is if you're working on paper, take a photocopy of it and just sketch around it. But then you can also, if you're working on a computer, just cut it out, get a photo of the patch, trace around it, or erase around it. You can get it that way. Oftentimes you'll find it on Lodge website. Yeah. So those are the basic elements. Let me know what you think of this video. This is kind of a trial video. I'm not really 100% sure what direction I'm going to be going with this channel. But I like patches, and I've done design for them, and I'm hoping, I remember having trouble finding resources like this when I was starting out. So yeah, let me know what you think. Leave a comment below. If you like the video, leave it a like. If you like the channel, leave it a subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I hope you're having a great day.